547 days. That's how long it's been since Olivia vanished from my life on what should have been the happiest day of our lives. I've counted every single one of those days, marked them off on a calendar that hangs in my kitchen like some twisted ritual. Each X representing another 24 hours of questions without answers. I still remember the weight of my boutonniere, how the white rose felt unnaturally heavy against my chest as I stood at the altar. The church was perfect. Sunlight streaming through stained glass, casting kaleidoscope patterns across polished wooden pews filled with everyone we loved. I remember checking my watch. 2:17 p.m. She was only 17 minutes late. I wasn't worried yet. Women and their dramatic entrances, my best man James whispered, nudging my shoulder. We shared a laugh, though mine was edged with nerves. At 2:30, I noticed Olivia's mother, Caroline, slipping out the back doors. She returned minutes later, her practiced smile betrayed by eyes that wouldn't meet mine. At 2:45, my phone vibrated. A text from her maid of honor, Sophia. She's not answering her phone. The murmurs began at 3 o'clock. By 3:15, Caroline was openly crying while Sophia and two bridesmaids huddled in the vestibule, frantically making calls. James kept his hand on my shoulder, a gesture that felt like an anchor as reality began to shift beneath my feet. "I'm sure there's an explanation," he kept saying. "Maybe she got into an accident." The horrible truth is that I was almost hoping for that. At least then, I'd have answers. At 3:30, Olivia's father Robert approached the altar. His face was ashen, drained of the jovial warmth I'd come to know over 3 years of Sunday dinners at their colonial home in the suburbs. "Marcus," he said, voice cracking slightly, "I think we need to tell everyone to go home." I nodded mechanically, though inside, a storm was brewing. This couldn't be happening. Not to us. Not after everything we'd built together. The announcement was made. The guests filed out with sympathetic glances and uncomfortable murmurs. Some didn't know what to say, so they said nothing at all. Others offered platitudes that felt like sandpaper against my raw emotions. Cold feet happens to the best of us. Maybe it's for the best. At least you found out now rather than later. I stayed behind in the empty church, sitting in the front pew where her parents should have been, staring at the flower arrangements that cost more than my first car. White lilies and blue hydrangeas, her favorites. The scent was overwhelming, cloying, almost mocking in its perfection. That night was a blur of whiskey and unanswered texts. Her apartment was empty, clothes gone, toiletries missing, but everything else eerily in place. Her engagement ring sat on the nightstand, the 3-carat diamond catching the lamplight in a way that felt deliberately cruel. In the days that followed, we learned she'd withdrawn a significant amount of cash the day before the wedding. Her passport was gone. Her social media accounts were deactivated. It was as if Olivia Williams had decided to erase herself from existence, leaving behind only questions and the shell of the man who loved her. The police were sympathetic, but unhelpful. "She's an adult who left of her own accord," they explained. "There's no evidence of foul play." Friends and family rallied around me, of course. Casseroles appeared at my door. Invitations to get my mind off things multiplied. But as weeks turned to months, the collective sympathy waned. Life moved on for everyone. Everyone except me. Because how do you move on when the story has no ending? How do you close a book when the final chapter is blank? I was trapped in limbo, suspended between what was and what should have been, until the postcard arrived, 547 days later. The postcard arrived on a Tuesday. No return address, postmarked from Portland. The image on the front was generic, a cityscape at sunset, the kind you'd find in any tourist shop. I almost tossed it with the junk mail until I flipped it over and recognized her handwriting immediately. Slanted and precise, the way her A's always curved a little too much at the top. 4 words, written in blue ink. "I'm sorry. Stay away." My hands trembled as I traced the letters. For over a year, I'd imagined our reunion 1,000 different ways. Tearful explanations, passionate reconciliations, even angry confrontations. But this was worse than silence. It was a door being slammed shut just as I glimpsed what was behind it. I called James that night, the postcard laid out on my coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. "This doesn't make sense," he said, examining the handwriting. "If she wanted you to stay away, why reach out at all?" That question haunted me as I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling fan making lazy circles above my bed. The bed we'd picked out together for our new house. The house I couldn't bring myself to sell, despite its emptiness echoing like a taunt. The next morning, I called in sick to the architecture firm where I'd been mechanically designing other people's dream homes, while my own life remained in blueprints. I booked a flight to Portland. "This is insane," my sister Rachel told me over the phone. "You're chasing a ghost." "Maybe," I admitted. "But I need to know." Portland welcomed me with gray skies and persistent rain that seemed appropriate for my mission. I had no plan, no real strategy beyond showing her photograph to baristas and bartenders, hotel concierges and bookstore clerks. It was detective work for amateurs, fueled by desperation and the fading memory of her laugh. 3 days passed with nothing. I walked until my feet ached, carrying her photo like a talisman. On the 4th day, at a small art gallery in the Pearl District, a flash of recognition crossed the face of a young woman arranging sculptures near the entrance. "Yeah, I've seen her," she said, studying the photo. "But her hair is different. Shorter, darker." My heart hammered against my ribs. "When?" "She comes in sometimes. Never buys anything, just looks at the Bellingham collection." She pointed to a series of abstract paintings in the back corner. Said they reminded her of home. Home. The word felt like a knife twist. Bellingham wasn't anywhere we'd lived or even visited together. I returned to the gallery every day for a week, positioned near those paintings, waiting. On the 8th day, just as I was losing hope, the bell above the door chimed. And there she was. Her hair was indeed shorter, dyed a rich chestnut brown instead of her natural blonde. She wore oversized glasses that couldn't quite disguise the face I'd loved for years. She moved differently, more cautious, shoulders slightly hunched as if trying to make herself smaller. Our eyes met. Time suspended itself for 3 agonizing seconds before recognition, then panic flooded her features. She turned immediately, pushing through the door. "Olivia!" I called, following her onto the rain-slicked sidewalk. "Please, I just want to talk." She walked faster, weaving through pedestrians, not looking back. I followed, maintaining distance but keeping her in sight. She turned down an alley between 2 brick buildings, then into a small coffee shop. I paused at the window, watching as she approached a table in the back. That's when I saw him. A man stood up to greet her, his expression shifting from warmth to concern as she spoke urgently to him. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair and an expensive-looking coat. His arm went protectively around her shoulders as she glanced toward the door. Toward me. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. All this time, I'd imagined kidnappings, amnesia, witness protection, anything but the most obvious explanation. She'd left me for someone else. I stumbled back from the window, bile rising in my throat. The rain had intensified, soaking through my jacket, but I barely noticed. I was walking away when I heard her voice. "Marcus!" I turned. She stood alone in the doorway of the coffee shop, her face a complex map of emotions I couldn't navigate. "You shouldn't have come," she said, wrapping her arms around herself. "You left me at the altar," I replied, my voice eerily calm despite the storm inside me. "I think I deserve to know why." She glanced over her shoulder, then back at me. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I can't tell you. Please understand. You have to go home and forget about me." "I've been trying for 18 months, I said. "It hasn't worked so far." She took a step closer, lowering her voice. "You're in danger just talking to me. We both are." Before I could process her words, the coffee shop door opened again. The man emerged, placing his hand on her elbow. "Is everything all right, Claire?" he asked, eyeing me suspiciously. "Claire, not Olivia." "Fine," she answered quickly. "Just an old friend from school." His eyes narrowed slightly, unconvinced. "The car's waiting. We'll be late for your appointment." She nodded, then turned to me with pleading eyes. "Goodbye, Marcus." As they walked away, she pressed something into my palm, a folded napkin with an address scrawled inside. I stood in the rain, the folded napkin growing damp between my fingers, watching her walk away with him. My mind raced with contradictions. Her panic at seeing me, her warning about danger, the way she'd called herself Claire. Nothing made sense. Yet everything pointed to something far more complex than I'd imagined. The address led me to a small park near the river the following evening at 7 p.m., as her hastily scribbled note had instructed. I arrived early, taking a seat on a bench with a clear view of the entrance, my nerves frayed from lack of sleep and too much coffee. At exactly 7 she appeared, wearing a dark hoodie pulled low over her face. She scanned the area twice before approaching, her movements tense and deliberate. "You shouldn't have come to Portland," she said, sitting beside me but keeping distance between us, eyes constantly monitoring our surroundings. "What was I supposed to do with that postcard?" I asked. 4 words after 18 months of nothing? She sighed, pushing her glasses up. "I sent it because I heard you were still looking for me. I needed you to stop." "Who was that man?" "Marshall Keegan," she replied, her voice dropping. "He's my handler." "Handler?" The word hung between us, foreign and ominous. She closed her eyes briefly. "I'm in witness protection, Marcus." The world tilted on its axis. Of all the scenarios I'd considered, this hadn't been one of them. "The accounting firm I worked for before we met," she continued. "I discovered they were laundering money for the Rossi crime family. I didn't realize what I'd found at first, just numbers that didn't add up. By the time I understood what I was looking at, they knew I knew." "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice cracked. "We were getting married. We were supposed to trust each other with everything." "They threatened me 2 days before the wedding," she said, voice barely audible above the distant traffic. "A man approached me in the parking garage. He showed me photos of you leaving work, of your parents' house, of your sister picking up her kids from school." Her voice trembled. "He said if I went to the authorities, they would kill all of you. If I warned you or anyone else, same result." My mind flashed to the week before our wedding, how distracted she'd seemed, the shadows under her eyes I'd attributed to pre-wedding stress. "So I made a choice," she continued. "I contacted the FBI that night. They moved fast, took my statement, arranged for me to disappear immediately. I couldn't tell anyone, not even you, especially not you. The money withdrawal, the missing clothes, all orchestrated to look like I'd planned it, like I'd chosen to leave." Her eyes finally met mine, brimming with unshed tears. "It was the only way to keep you safe." "What about now?" I asked. "If they're still watching me, the case is nearly over," she interrupted. "The trial starts next month. The Rossi brothers and 16 others were arrested last year. Once they're convicted, I can come out of protection." "And then what?" The question felt enormous. She looked away. "I don't know, Marcus. I've been Claire Bennett for over a year now. I have a different job, different friends. I had to leave Olivia Williams behind completely." "Including me," I said quietly. Her hand moved toward mine, then retreated. "I never stopped loving you. That's the cruelest part. Every day I've wondered what you were doing, if you were okay, if you'd moved on." "I tried," I admitted. "I dated someone for a few months last winter. It didn't work out." A small, sad smile crossed her face. "Rachel's friend Jennifer." The realization hit me. "You've been checking on me." She nodded. "Marshall helps me. There's a fine line between keeping my distance and needing to know you're safe." We sat in silence for a moment, the gap between us filled with everything we'd lost. "What happens if I wait?" I finally asked. "If I'm still there when this is all over?" She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since she'd disappeared from my life. "I don't know if that's fair to ask of you." "You're not asking, I'm offering. I'm not the same person anymore, Marcus." "Neither am I," I replied, but I'd like the chance to know who you've become." A dog barked nearby, making her jump. She checked her watch. "I have to go. Marshall will be looking for me." As she stood, I reached for her hand. "How will I know when it's over?" "I'll find you," she promised. "But until then, you need to go home and pretend this never happened. Their network is still out there. If anyone suspects you know anything." I nodded, understanding the weight of her warning. She hesitated, then quickly pressed her lips to my cheek. "Goodbye, Marcus." I watched her disappear into the growing darkness, taking with her both the answers I'd sought and new questions I couldn't yet resolve. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm back home now, in our house that no longer feels quite so empty. I've returned to work, to friends, to the rhythms of daily life. But everything has shifted subtly, colored by the knowledge that somewhere, she's fighting to reclaim her life. I don't know if Olivia will come back to me when this is over. I don't know if the woman she's become will still fit with the man I am now. But for the first time in 18 months, I have something I'd lost at that altar. Hope. So I wait, and I watch the news for mentions of the Rossi trial. I change the locks, install security cameras just in case. And each night before bed, I look at our wedding photo, the one I'd hidden in a drawer but now keep on my nightstand. 573 days. That's how long it's been since she left me at the altar. And now, finally, I know why.
Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more interesting content coming soon.